Hi, I'm Jedd Bradley, a minor league baseball player for the Milwaukee Brewers.
Hello, I'm Ryan Madson, pitcher for the Kansas City Royals.
I'm Jay Schroeder, owner of Evo Ultrafit and creator of Protocols.
That we're discussing, I think, are really important that especially kids need to hear. Not necessarily people that have already been drafted and been in the major leagues and you've been in a World Series and all these things. People don't understand that the weight training, the conditioning that we do in a quote weight room actually applies to baseball. I know, Jedd, you made a comment about bench pressing.
Yeah.
And you came to the conclusion that if you bench press the right way, it's good for baseball?
Absolutely.
Ryan, what do you think? You've been around many more years.
Yeah, no, this is the first time I've bench pressed, and it feels good. It feels like it opens up the right areas that need to be opened up in the shoulder.
It opens up the right areas.
Yes, it opens up the right areas specific to, when you're about to go forward with the ball.
So you're in the right position.
That's right.
To create as much velocity or movement, life on the ball.
Yes.
Depending on the pitch you're making.
At the right moments.
Yeah,
Right.
And I got a real good understanding this season with you guys here, this off season, that it isn't all about just throwing strikes and hitting a certain place. It's about making the batter think that it's going somewhere and it really moves somewhere else.
Yes.
And that's what we've been able to change, alter for the better for both of you?
Yeah, then you're talking about the life on the ball, and that comes from being strong at your furthest length, and that comes from extension, but being able to be strong enough to apply pressure at that furthest point. And that's where you see guys with live arms or guys with good stuff. Yeah. It comes from strength at length.
So live arm means that same thing, huh?
Yes.
Okay. What kept you prior to coming here from maintaining, because obviously you had to have it at some time in your career for given amounts of time, but when you couldn't perform it, what kept you from maintaining that? What was the limiting factor? Have you discovered that here?
Well, before I came here, it was fatigue, pain, feeling like I needed rest, people telling me I needed to rest, and lack of preparation for the next day. Pitching 30 pitches and saying, okay, I'm just going to go home and rest. When that's probably, like here, you feel like you need rest, you should probably do some work, and then you'll realize that you'll feel better in the end of that, after that workout. So that's what I've learned here is when you feel like you shouldn't be doing something, that's when you need to get in there and work hard and just do the exercises and be in position, and it'll train your mind, not only your body, to be able to work in those conditions.
Do you guys think that having been here for a while now, because you were here before you did your retirement and you've been here a few years, do you think that kids at an entry level can benefit and perform what's asked in Evo?
Absolutely. There's definitely going to be a learning process. I mean, just like anything else in life. But even if you master half or a third of what's taught in here, you're going to benefit from it. There's no way you can't.
Yeah, I would agree. Coming in here for the first time, I didn't know if I was going to be able to do the work because I've never been a big, heavy, strong guy to lift a bunch of weight, and I thought that's what this was going to be. And it was never heavyweight. It was just stuff that was really hard to do and mentally hard to do. And at a point where I was mentally low and physically, strength-wise, low. And so I had a little concern, but it's the perfect mix of just really hard things to do, but not a lot of weight. I don't think I've lifted more than a 10-pound weight in here for months, and still I've gained 20, 30 pounds.
And you get stronger.
Very, very stronger and in the right areas.
In the right areas. What are the right areas for a pitcher?
Legs,
back,
shoulders.
Yes.
All the good the sweet spots that.
And do we just train those, or do we train your whole body?
Everything.
Oh, everything. Everything is
And do we train everything every day, or do we split it up?
Every day.
Everything every day.
Yeah, because when you go out to pitch, whether you're just throwing, I don't know, what do you call it when you're
A bullpen?
in the bullpen? Yeah, you just make so many pitches. Do you ever leave like your left arm at home if you're right-handed and your right arm at home if you're left-handed, or shut your hamstrings off because it's an easy day, or you don't ever do that, do you? I know I'm being sarcastic, but people believe that sometimes throwing bullpen should be less effort than throwing if you're in a game.
Right.
And since you both have been here, I think this is an appropriate question. Have you discovered that it's actually different than that?
Absolutely.
What have you discovered?
I've discovered in here that the harder you do something, the better for you it is, and the better your body responds to it.
And even throwing just bullpen,
Absolutely.
which is not necessarily extremely important, or throwing your 30 pitches before you're going to play the next, you're going to start the next day and throwing 30 pitches that day. Mm-hmm. Okay, you know, we get information from both of you each day up until the point of spring training starting, where you made X number of pitches, you did so much long toss, you did so many pitches off the mound, and then the comments about life on the ball, accuracy on the ball, how you felt, whether you thought it was good or you thought it was poor, and comments as to what your catcher, you know, really gave you the real information, because they're the one that they're receiving the ball, so they know more than anything, because we can all, as throwing a ball, we could think something's happening, but they're the one who actually got to see it right from the start.
Right.
And when we monitor those, even if we run into a limitation, because there's always going to be ups and downs, and that's why we manage this, because life gets in the way of baseball. You know, sometimes having a family, not having a family, having friends that request you to go places and do things. Okay, things get in the way, but we're always able to remedy those, and when you go out there the next day, because you guys don't take a day off, right? Okay, we throw every day. And you're able to go out there, and sometimes, Ryan, you specifically, I remember during this past week, you had a down day, and yet you went out there the next day and said, quote, "It was awesome."
Yeah. Yeah.
Normally, what would have happened if you had a down day on the next day? What would have happened to you?
In the training room before, we poked, prodded, rested, ice, you know, all kinds of different things, where I took it from I say it's like an Evo mode. If I didn't have a good day, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to work just as hard as I did before. It's just one mode. I'm going to go in there, work my Evo mode, and the next day I'll feel better.
So if something isn't happening for you, you believe that work will allow that to come back.
Yes.
And what made you believe that being here? What caused you to believe that? Because you've brought other younger baseball players in, big leaguers in, and what made you believe that?
Just experience. Doing it.
What's that experience? These guys out here want to know from somebody who's been in a World Series, who's pitched against the top guys in the major league, because it doesn't seem possible to them. What we're talking about is not very well accepted in the world of baseball. Okay, it's a lot of rest, a lot of take it easy. And how many days do they give you in between games?
4.
4.
Yeah.
Doesn't ever really make sense, but what specifically proved to you, what did you see in your performance that said, this is real?
While doing the exercises, you can feel certain positions that you're in while pitching. And when you're doing the exercises here, you can feel certain oddities or things you might be doing wrong or not turning on that you can apply the next time you go out there and pitch.
Ryan, that is awesome.
Turn it right on.
That's exactly what it is. You're able to recognize what muscles aren't working, when they're not working, or not working up to par, and you're applying that to baseball while you're in a freaking weight room. So bench press, Jedd, can be beneficial.
Absolutely.
Even if it's wrong, or if you're having a bad time in here, the lighter the weights we're using, you know, we understand is really more beneficial. You know, if you're using a pencil instead of a 10-pound dumbbell, we understand here that that's really better for you. So you're able to make those adjustments in a weight room, transferring them to a baseball field. Oh my gosh. That's what everyone should understand.
Right. Light bulbs just come on.
Light bulbs come on.
When you're doing, split squats or glute ham, you'll realize, I'm at a position.
Hey, But let me ask you, probably in your career at some point, because you're an old guy now, at some point in your career, you probably did a lot of the exercises that we do in here. Or some of them.
Yeah, some of them.
What makes it different here than what you did on your own or with a team or with your club or your high school or?
Totally different thought process. If you're doing split squats, before it was just hold myself up. Now it's pull yourself into the ground. And then, like I was saying earlier, that applies directly to when you're throwing the ball home. You don't push when you're throwing home. You pull yourself to.
Does that work for you too?
Absolutely.
You guys are two different style of pitchers, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah. But that works for you also.
Absolutely.
And you guys work out together.
Every day.
Every day. And even though you're different styles, and obviously one's older, one's younger, and one's like really tall, and one's just moderately tall, and your arm segments are longer or shorter, and your legs and feet are different sizes.
Yeah.
You guys do the same things. But you get what you need out of it to the same level that you get what you need out of it.
Sure, yeah.
And vice versa. What do you guys equate it to? You're the baseball players. We know in the gym, Charles and I know at Evo what we equate it to. But you, the baseball player, what would you tell the high school kid who wants to get drafted about why this training would be more beneficial for them to get drafted and have a career, even though they're going to do the same things that you guys would do, you know, and they want to be special and get their own program. What is it you guys see?
I think the biggest thing here is it doesn't matter what you do, because you guys aren't training, you're not training football players and baseball players and basketball players or hockey players. You're training human beings to be efficient human beings. So a different light bulb will go off for Ryan during an exercise. We're doing the same exercise. He'll get a light bulb over here, I'll get a light bulb over here, and we apply it to the same thing. And so I think the biggest takeaway...
What's the same thing?
Baseball.
Baseball.
Throwing a baseball.
Having life on the ball just before it gets into the catcher's mitt.
Yes.
Going somewhere the batter doesn't expect it to go.
Yes.
Yep.
And that's success. I always thought it was just throwing strikes, but it's really not, because throwing strikes is where hitters can hit the ball.
Yeah. That ends after high school.
That ends after high
The
school.
hitters get tremendously better, and anything in the zone, they're going to hit.
They're gonna
so you
hit.
want balls that are entering the zone and
then move
leaving
away.
the zone. Entering the zone, leaving the zone. And that takes that strength, length and strength and position to do that.
And trying to do that without being prepared leads to injury, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
What injury did you sustain?
Yeah, you know, I was talking about coming out of high school. I just had a natural arm, and I didn't really have to work much for it. Just always since 8 years old, actually, and just was able to throw the ball really hard. So I didn't have to work a lot to get it. I just always had it. And so I just kind of rode that wave and said, I don't need to do much. I already have it, and everybody else can, you know, squat a bunch of weight. I can't do that. And I don't need to do that either. And then eventually, it backfired on me. I, you know, failed to prepare and just relied on my natural ability, and then that wasn't enough. So I ended up having Tommy John surgery. And
That's pretty serious in baseball.
Yeah, and so I was out for a year and tried to come back and tried to do the same things I was doing before after surgery, and nothing. It wasn't panning out. There was, you know, I was saying, what's going on? I'm letting them, the trainers, do their thing and what normally, you know, everybody does after Tommy John, and it just wasn't working for me. And so I didn't have anything to go off of, because before I wasn't doing anything, and then after, what do? I don't know. And so I would listen, and nothing was working. Nothing. The conventional ways that most trainers and most teams come up with just wasn't working for me in my specific problem.
It didn't apply to throwing a baseball again.
No.
Would you say it applied to making you stronger in different areas, but just not throwing a baseball, or?
Yeah, it made me strong in certain areas, but it didn't help me get back to that ability to function. Being out for a year was hard. It was almost, you know, if you don't work on certain things for a year, like say ping pong, and you try and go play ping pong again, you're going to be a little rusty, or and that's what they didn't help me connect back to, was that function and that ability, where this training here was turning on light bulbs every day to say, oh yeah, that's how I get there, that's how I do this.
Well,
So,
Ryan, your story is an interesting one, because you came in, however you met us, by hook or by crook, whatever it was, you met us, and Charles trained you and prepared you, and we both were at your workout, your tryout with, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 scouts. We were there with other pitchers, and ultimately you're the only one they ever cared to talk to and speak with about what was going on. And then a very interesting thing happened, is you retired. And the reasons why are really not important, because they were personal, and that wasn't, but the point of this is that you were off for how long before you came back to us again?
about 11 months.
11 months.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first saw you, because I wasn't here when you came in, because Charles does all the work, I just, get to do the fun stuff. And I came in, and you told me that you were helping train and prepare a young player, and you found out that even after 11 months off, you still had major league stuff.
Yeah.
And you were off for 11 months. Now, during that 11 months, I know you didn't prepare in here. Were you doing anything special?
No.
And you were able to maintain that
Yes.
from what you did prior to. Or let me ask you this. I assume that's what happened because, that's what I do. But would you agree that you were able to do that because of the level of preparation you had from the year prior with us?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yes.
And Jedd, after our first year with you, you were still somewhat skeptical because you hadn't gone through a season.
Yes.
And you hadn't done all those things. And you didn't have Charles and Jay and Evo managing your preparation each day, preparation after the game for sleep and recovery, and whatever the team was going to have you do the next day. How did that specifically relate to you and your performance with your team?
I would say the biggest thing for me was just overcoming the fear that I was surrounded by on a daily basis, because baseball is chock full of, hey, take it easy, pump the brakes, that kind of deal. And I was constantly surrounded by that, just on a daily basis. I went from, my second season, when I got hurt, I threw 77 innings, and I ended the year with my team telling me I needed to have surgery. Mm-hmm. And I found Evo. I started training, and really, I was throwing bullpens, I was competing in spring training and doing everything, so things were going well, but I hadn't tested that over a season. So it took going through a season, and really, it's what opened my eyes to say, wow, I can do this.
Did you have the surgery?
No.
You didn't?
I did not.
And you weren't injured this past season?
I doubled my innings from the year before.
You doubled your innings.
Mm-hmm.
And how does that relate to pitch count? Because I'm not a baseball player or a participant. How does that relate to how many pitches you made?
Double the pitches.
Double the pitches.
Mm-hmm.
Did it relate to, because I'm sure that you or probably your team or your manager charts the number of productive pitches, we'll call them, those that had life. Did that change at all?
It did. Getting stronger in here, I was able to maintain position longer throughout a season. That's the main reason I got hurt my first 2 years, is as the year would go on, I couldn't hold position any longer. So that's what hurt me. But after training here last off season and getting that time, such valuable time under my belt, throughout the year, I maintained.
These things are really cool that you're all talking about here, because this is really the essence of playing a sport. In your guys' case, it's baseball. I just want to make sure of one thing. Are we paying you to be here? Are we giving you a discount on the rate you pay to be here and talk about this?
No.
What?
You better
What
say
then? What then is the goal of you telling all of the people out here, especially the young kids, about preparation? What is your goal? Because you're still a young kid.
If I can help somebody avoid some of the mistakes that I made, that's a plus. That's a plus. And the fact that this isn't universally accepted is kind of insane to me, just because of how successful it has been for anybody who's got the guts to stick around and do it. But
The guts to stick around, what does that mean?
Well, this is hard.
It's hard?
Yeah, there's nothing easy about it.
And it's different?
It's very different.
Because
Yes.
we don't play baseball in here. We don't do baseball things. And that's hard to get used to.
Absolutely.
Like anything else that would be new or different, it's hard to get used to.
Yes,
You love baseball
I do.
because you want to give all your competitors this advantage. So you really love baseball.
I do.
Wow, that's really cool, Jedd.
I want to give it to them because I wish I had somebody giving it to me when early on, at any point before I got injured. I definitely could say that I would have not been injured or if I had this training.
Have you always been this tall?
I've always been this tall.
Yeah.
I haven't always been this weight, and the weight feels good. It feels like strength.
I mean, my every preconceived notion I had before I came to Evo was wiped clean. It was clean slate coming in, and I know now how much more of a load my body can take, how much more work I can do, and everything else everybody else does is irrelevant, because the only thing that matters is me and what I'm doing this day and what I'm doing to prepare myself for my next outing, and for the next time out going to battle and trying to get guys out. And just the biggest confidence boost I got was when that was put to the test and I came out on top. My body could come back. My body could do anything I asked it to do, and that was just the biggest life juice, I guess you could say, that you could give to me, because I mean it just helped a ton. Well, I think the biggest difference between then and now is I've always been a hard worker, but when you're doing the same thing everybody else is doing, you're going to get the same results with a few variations. And so not only was the work I was doing then not appropriate, but it's what everybody else does. So I mean, if you want to be like everybody else, do what they do. And I think the biggest reason I've seen the improvements that I have, just the biggest jumps that I've taken physically and in my career, is just because this is so different and it is appropriate and it's right. And I mean, the proof's in the pudding. I mean, you look at the people that have come through here, what I've done, what Ryan's done, and that's all the proof I need. I mean, it's perfect.
Jedd, let me ask you a question. You mentioned a couple times about working harder, pushing yourself more. I'm sure you've done that throughout your career, even though you're working out with other people, and most tend to fall into the same rhythm that the others are working at. But what did you really see when you went out to throw, from day to day, from week to week, from month to month? What were the real differences? Because a lot of people can work harder, but it doesn't mean they're going to gain anymore. There's a lot of people out there who train people and they're near death when they finish training. You know, they pass out on the floor, or they can't do anything for a couple days. So is that the kind of hard work you're talking about? Do you feel like you can't do anything when you leave here?
In the past, yeah. I mean, that was the kind of training that I would do. Is you're physically exhausted, you're crazy sore, crazy tired. And my first 2 years, I would get off to a hot start. My first 2 seasons, both times. But the biggest thing, about halfway through the year, I saw a crazy decline in performance, and both of those seasons ended in injury for me. And the best thing for me about Evo is coming in here is, yeah, I mean, I'll be sore. I mean, I'll be tired. But when I come in here, and in the past, when I was said, hey, I'm gonna take the day off. My body's sore. I don't want to work out today. And here, I'll have better lifts after feeling that way. I'll have better training sessions. And
so you've learned to equate certain feelings that used to tell you you needed a break. They now tell you you're able to perform.
Absolutely.
Okay, and you can apply that to the baseball field.
Yes.
Because what we really need to understand is anybody can train harder, anybody can make up exercises, anybody can create a system that's harder than something else that's out there. But this is not only harder, but it's more productive to prepare you to do whatever you're going to do, and understand that you can still do past halfway in the season what you did in the beginning of the season.
Yes.
I know I followed you last year, on the internet, and the video actually was pretty good, and then they have that cool little thing with the stats and everything, where the pitch went, the location and everything. That was pretty interesting. And you could see that sometimes the actual mile per hour increased. After a day where you said, I'm not feeling quite as good as I did the day before, but you went out there and you had maybe even a better game, but a lot of that's dependent upon the people behind you and the offense, if they can score or not. But as far as strikeouts and actually getting people out, they were, much higher percentage on some of those things. So the important part is that whoever you train with and being here, we prepare you for whatever the situation may be. You may end up in a situation, which I saw last year, where you went against some people that were pretty darn good several times in a row, and you had expressed that you weren't as successful against them the second, third, and fourth time they came to bat, or the second, third time you saw them during the season. And what I saw this past year was that you were successful against those people more times than not.
Yes.
And that then translates to wins, is that?
Yeah, wins, and just overall, I mean, especially being in the minor leagues, wins are important, yes, but the biggest thing is just showing growth and the potential to pitch in the major leagues. I mean, because that's the ultimate goal here. I mean, Ryan's done it for 10 years, and that's been my dream since I was a kid. And I wouldn't be sitting through the long bus rides if that wasn't still the goal. And that was the biggest growth for me last year. Was just that big step forward in a lot of ways.
So it isn't just the training hard. It isn't just knowing you can go farther. It's knowing that you can go farther, but it transfers to baseball.
Yes.
And that's the real key. Again, anybody can come up with anything they want. I could invent all new exercises. Each of you've been playing baseball your whole lives. You could come up with exercises. The other thing that I think is important in preparation is we don't really do anything that's baseball specific. We train humans, and you're able to take that training and apply it to playing baseball. And I know, Ryan, for you, it's changed your life, your personal life, because, and we'll hear about this in a bit, but you retired. And decided to come back because you still had this massive ability that others didn't possess. And it's a very cool thing, and I think that's really key. Longevity of your career. You were injured each year. Were you injured last year?
No.
Just making sure. The key is being able to pitch long enough in baseball to reach the major leagues, and then be able to be successful for whatever number of years those are. How long have you been in the minor leagues?
3 seasons now.
3 seasons. And you were a top draft pick?
I was, yes.
And how many years were you in the minor leagues?
6 years.
6 years. And were you a top round draft pick?
9th round.
9th round. Okay. Either way, you guys still have to pay your dues coming up. And how many pitches do you make a year?
Thousands.
Yeah. And if you are prepared, as you both very well know from personal experience, you're not going to make it long enough to get to the big leagues and have a career, make a living, and enjoy playing the game you love. That's what we really do here, and I think that's what you were saying that's really key to those listening. It isn't about just working hard. Yes, you have to work hard, but everybody knows that. It isn't about just showing up every day, but it's about being in the proper position to be efficient as a human being, to lead to throwing a baseball consistently, having, I think you guys call it life on the ball.
Yes.
Consistently, first pitch to 100th pitch, first game to 30th game.
Yes.
That's really what this is all about. Anybody can get strong, anybody can get fast, but making it work on the field of play, That's important.